Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the All Aboard, the Multiverse Express. Today, we're going to talk about a more philosophical topic in the Magic the Gathering community, something to do with the color pie, one of the least popular colors, white, and why it needs more support in Elder Dragon Highlander or Commander. So we have multiple reasons, but today is going to be more of a rambling episode where we kind of go back and forth and just kind of constructively rag on one of the worst colors in Magic.
Should I leave it a bit?
Oh,
Yep. Pulling up the list right here. Yep.
So the question we asked today is why white needs more support in MTG, and we're going to convince you.
Or if you're already convinced, then help solidify those points.
Yeah, of course.
You know, with our first topic of why white needs more support in MTG and specifically Elder Dragon Highlander is card advantage. I think that's probably the biggest, reason why white is less effective in EDH than other colors within the color pie.
I agree. Yeah, there's just no really staples that, 2 in a white, draw 2 cards at sorcery speed even. Like, there's no, I'm not saying it has to be blue, but there's no, everything in white is a 1-for-1 or not very effective trade in terms, they don't have a lot of heavy discard effects, mill effects. I mean, you can't really interact with your opponent's deck or hand that much in white, which is in EDH. I mean, there's some scary stuff you don't want people playing with.
Especially, yeah. There's a lot of effects that can get around many different forms of removal or otherwise counters or stuff like that. Without that card draw to be able to match the speed, you're gonna lag behind. And which is why it definitely needs more engines to draw cards. Stuff that
Synergies to link up
Yep.
between, I mean, I can't even think of a 3-card combo in just mono white, barring artifacts, where you can set up a good turn engine to where per turn you're getting a lot of value. You see that more in things like green or blue or black even. In EDH, it's so, when everyone else is doing those kinds of things and getting free cards and getting free counters and, amassing stuff, and you're over there drawing 1 card per turn, maybe playing a card per turn, hoping your mono white commander has a powerful effect that will impact the board. It's just a long stretch.
Yep. How do you feel about it, Luke? With the card advantage situation concerning white?
I definitely think that it would need more draw power for it, because it's most of the time with white decks, it's they're mainly, in my opinion, a token-based deck. They want to try and generate as many tokens with cards like Anointed Procession as a way of doubling your tokens, and it's the only planeswalker I could see that is really strong in white that helps it would have to be Elspeth Sun's Champion, because she spits out tokens, so if you had Anointed Procession on the board, you can double the amounts. You'd be getting 6 1/1s for every +1 that you do with her loyalty ability, which I think is definitely good in white, but I would definitely want to see more draw power in it.
Absolutely. The go wide strategy is, notorious with white since the beginning of Magic. White weenie, coining that phrase of just getting as many little dudes as possible and going wide. The only way I really see this going off with, in a high-powered situation is some decks we'll see in Legacy, like Hate Bears, where we see these value creatures that don't cost that much, but all together being able to lock your opponent out from doing much more powerful things. It's just much harder to accrue that in EDH, especially when you're doing a mono white. Maybe if you're doing a blue white Hate Bears or a blue green Hate Bears, you might be able to swing some stuff because you'll have some other options, but we're specifically talking about mono white here, and even if you build a Hate Bears deck, you're not going to draw into what you need or really lock down what they need. You're like, okay, you got rid of my 4/4 trampler. That was powerful, but now I have a 6/6 infect or something, and you're like, dang, I'm just running out of ways to get rid of your stuff. And it might be costing a little more, but you're drawing mana, you're having all your engines go, and it's just hard to keep up. So that goes to our second point with vanilla creatures. White doesn't have very powerful effects or powerful creatures, in my opinion.
Yep, just straight up impressive creatures that can really either turn the tide in a game or help solidify a lead. There's not a lot of creatures that can do that. There are, a couple, but most of those are expensive. So, especially for budget players, you're not going to find a lot of market around those cards.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Especially like with effect creatures for it. It's like the only two whites I see that are really good to like run would have to be either Elesh, Norn, Grand Cenobite, or what was that other white one that I was thinking of? It was there's also like Heliod, like if you're wanting to gain a bunch of life and still put out clerics on board, or
another one like Sun Titan, or just
there's definitely
really
some good white creatures, but that kind of brings us to another point that we don't have written down here, but Wizards support for that. All of these cards that we're talking about, and especially when you're talking about budget, and that's why I think that's such a salient point for EDH, is because it's becoming so popular, most of the powerful cards or whatever are becoming way more expensive. So the older they are, the more in demand they are, then it's just more price they are. So all these cards that we're saying are great are older cards. They're not printing new white cards to blow people's minds and make people go pick up the new set. If you're a white EDH player, you just don't really have any options. If you're an Izzet player or something, every single set, you're like, I have to get the chase, whatever. It's going in my deck or this deck, and Mono White just doesn't have that.
It's like...
It really doesn't, especially with... What were you saying?
Oh, I was going to say, it's like with White, how most of them are like vanilla. It's like the only like nice combo I can like see in White that I've seen a really nasty board to play with is Sun Titan and Oblivion Stone, because they're mainly like board wipes. So you use Oblivion Stone to put a counter on the Sun Titan, and then when everything up on itself, and then it blows everything up. And so what happens with Sun Titan is when he comes back, he'll grab that Oblivion Stone right back on board, which is the only like good combo I can see with Mono White.
Well, again, that's why I was saying earlier, barring artifacts, I can't really think of any of these engines. Now with artifacts, that's kind of a cheat because those can go into any deck. So, if you can do a good engine in white with certain artifacts, they're probably better in other colors.
And especially going off of that, why does white need so much support from artifacts? I don't really see a whole lot of white decks, really any white decks that just don't have artifacts.
Legit.
Artifacts are kind of, when it comes to mono white, almost like their lifeline.
Especially in EDH when you have to have separate named cards. You can't just have 4 Squadron Hawk, 4, Thraben Inspector, 4 of what I love that is going to make this deck run. You got to have one of each, and they all got to have similar effects. And in white, you want those to be more powerful effects because we're not playing a little 20 life format where, I gained 6 life, and that's like, oh my gosh. It's like people don't care. They're doing other things.
Here's I'm going to put down 2 2/2s versus the blue player over here, Cyclonic Rifting.
Oh yeah, that card yikes, that card ends games.
Yeah, especially when it comes to those other colors, they have so many of those really show-stopping cards.
Yes.
Where Wizards doesn't give that support to white.
I'd say barring wrath effects, but I mean, how many wrath effects do you need?
Right.
Yeah, it's like only like 2 board wipe white cards I can think of at the moment that it's like they're good, but they also are expensive to get, is like Wrath of God or Planar Cleansing, because both of those are like the only big blow-up cards that I see in white.
Yeah, but I mean, if let's say I'm in mono black and I have all these things that white's lacking, and then I'm like, but Crux of Fate, Damnation. I have other options, and I don't need to be in white for these kind of things. And if white is lacking in all these other areas, you got to do a pro and con list of, what do I want my deck to do, and what can it do? And in white, you want it to do a lot of stuff, and it can only do a couple things.
Yeah, and it's other colors even have those board wipe effects, so it's not really kind of a staple to white, even though white has the most of those board wipes, like
quantity versus quality. Like you were saying, Psych Rift, that's probably the best board wipe out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's either-
overloaded in EDH.
I think like
In a 4-person game,
Yeah.
you pull ahead so easily just through that one thing.
or even like another board wipe card, but it's multicolored would be white-black, and that would be Merciless Eviction, because you're exiling creatures, and they're just sitting there like, he just exiled our entire board for like only 6 mana. It's like, that card is about as ridiculous as Cyclonic Rift can get.
Right, and going a little further within those creatures and stuff like that, I think white needs more synergistic effects between other creatures or other enchantments and stuff like that, where they feel like they pack more of a punch.
So yeah.
The last interesting thing I think white did, it was part of the 3-color Abzan wedge, and I think Outlast. I think white needs certain things like these abilities to where if I sink certain resources into it, I want to get more out of it. That way I'm not just relying on the cards I have, but how they work as a tool.
Yeah.
And I think a good representation of that, we'll have a link to the deck list here or a picture, is Damien's Ronin deck, which is a mono white deck, but it's very heavily artifact based, especially in its combos.
Yep.
And he wants to keep active and proactive with each creature. He's not just having a creature that is there, I'm either going to attack or block. He's always, during his turn, there's always something to do. And in white, you have to do that, and it's not as common as most other colors.
Especially not like blue or green, where they get so many resources. Like blue with their card draw or green with their mana ramping, they're unparalleled in being able to keep going.
Yeah.
Where they don't need that gas. Yeah, green will run out of cards. There's a few things that get them cards, but they have the mana to sink into what they have. Let's monstrosity 10 this creature, or
Scavenge or something.
Yeah, scavenge. And then blue, they use resources just to get more cards, put them in the graveyard, delving and stuff like that. Or with black too, and delve.
Well, I think that goes, right into our very last reason, which is white is very straightforward in its win strategies.
Yes.
I have a 4/4 Flying Sarah Angel, and I'm hoping you don't have blockers, so I'm just going to get your life total to 0 and try to gain 3 life every turn. And hope you don't mill me, infect me, all the multiple ways to win.
Yeah.
Yep.
And white has the least amount of those alternate win cons, even with artifacts.
Yeah.
It's lackluster in infect, practically nothing in mill.
No mill, no discard, no direct attacking on the resources or the hands, or not a lot of land destruction. You're just one turn at a time, really. And in a multiplayer format, that's not going to work. The shenanigans are not in your favor.
Yeah.
Yep, they just need more variety in what they can do, which is why I kind of liked one of their newest printings with white card is Approach of the Second Sun.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was a very, very good addition into its variety of win cons, especially with how reliable it is.
I'd say that definitely bucks the trend.
Yeah, just a little bit, but it definitely needs a little more support from Wizards. And going into that too, it just needs more stability against other colors too.
Yeah, if I'm playing mono black, or let's go mono green, there's everything I can do. I will handle your enchantments. I will blow up your artifacts. I will draw cards. I will fight your creatures. I will have a board. Like, there's other colors that just do so much variety of things so much better, and white does one thing, pretty much. White weenie.
Yeah.
The only other strategy is to get Voltrons to power up one creature, because they do have good synergies with like artifacts, white does, but that's about it. It's either the white weenie get a bunch of tokens and a bunch of life, which is in a lot of mono white decks is gain life, or buff up one creature to stupid proportions.
Alrighty. Well, any concluding statements on the white?
I think like the one thing I was gonna say is a legendary creature that works extremely good with artifacts, because most of them rely around that, would have to probably be also like it was a Sram Graham Artificer. He's that dwarven one where every time you play or find an artifact, draw a card, which
That's actually that goes back to the card advantage, and that was one thing. We'll put the disclaimer here is that commander is pretty much one of the only white commanders that bucks those trends.
Yes.
And gives an opportunity.
Yep. And I think one of my concluding statements in white is I don't like playing white as kind of a solo or the main color of a deck, but I think it does so well to accentuate every other deck.
Yeah.
Like any other
Literally.
deck, put a little white in that, you will be golden.
What I was talking about, is it earlier? Jeskai is the best deck.
Yeah.
Because it's is it plus white, which has great removal.
Card advantage
I mean, not card advantage, but
with blue.
oh, with the blue. I
with the
was
blue.
just saying what the white adds to the already powerful
yeah.
is it deck.
Yeah, the white adds to that with, a little bit of life gain if you need it, if that's where you're lacking, or the board wipes if
Variable
that's where
options.
you're lacking. Yeah, it has viable options, but I don't think white does those options well enough for them to be considered good enough to use by itself. But put it with a deck that can help boost that, and it's kind of like a back and forth where with Jeskai it's like it gets boosted by that white, and white is boosted by that it.
Yep. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yes.
With white, that's very true. So let us know what you think down in the comments down below. Leave your thoughts and click that like button, click subscribe, click the notification bell so you see more videos from us in the future. And yeah, that's the end of the video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see you next time. Catch us later on the next episode of All Aboard
All aboard!
the Multiverse Express.